Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really digging into something fundamental. Oil, how it's shaped not just economies, but, global power, even some surprising international ties. And the big question we're tackling is, how does the United States use its deep need for oil to project influence worldwide? We'll look specifically at how this plays out with a country like Pakistan. So our mission today is to sort of walk through the key insights from our sources together, give you a shortcut to understanding this really complex picture: energy, money, geopolitics, without drowning in data. We're going to uncover some honestly fascinating connections that show why oil is still such a massive deal in global affairs.
Absolutely. And it's striking just how many layers there are here. You've got military strategy, economic pressure, complex diplomacy. It all intertwines. Understanding these deeper forces really helps make sense of headlines today,
Yeah.
why certain things happen the way they do.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our source material makes it incredibly clear that oil isn't just fuel, it's absolutely essential to the United States for economic strength, military power, maintaining global dominance. So, what exactly does that mean in practice?
Well, it points to a really fundamental dependence. The U.S. economy runs on oil. Transportation, manufacturing, the military needs it constantly. And here's something interesting. Even with more domestic production now, fracking and all that.
Right, the shale boom.
Exactly. Even with that, the U.S. still relies heavily on influencing the global oil market. It's about keeping prices stable, ensuring supply, essentially maintaining control. It turns that domestic capacity into a tool for foreign policy.
So, this reliance, this internal need, it really ripples outwards, doesn't it? It's not just about filling up tanks at home, it's about shaping how energy moves around the world. How does that actually play out on the global stage?
It means that controlling oil, or at least influencing its flow, gives the U.S. huge leverage in international politics. Think about the strong military presence in oil-rich areas, particularly the Middle East. That's not accidental. And the U.S. Navy, patrolling key shipping lanes like the Strait of Hormuz. A massive amount of the world's oil goes through there.
So, those patrols aren't just about safety.
Well, yes, safety, but it's also a direct show of power. It influences who gets oil, where it goes, and crucially, under what conditions. It secures U.S. strategic interests.
And it's not just about what's flowing right now, is it? There's also this huge backup plan, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. What's the deal with that?
Ah, yes, the SPR. It's essentially a massive emergency stockpile of crude oil owned by the U.S. government. Its main purpose is to provide a buffer, cushioning the impact if there's a sudden supply disruption, maybe a war, a natural disaster.
So it protects the economy from shocks.
Exactly. But it also gives Washington extra leverage in negotiations. If there's an oil crisis brewing, having that reserve gives them options. Bit of a diplomatic ace up their sleeve, you could say.
So, okay, the U.S. secures the flow, has a backup, but it also seems like it actively tries to shape who controls resources abroad. Our sources mention some history there.
Yes, definitely. There's a track record of the U.S. working to influence or even control oil resources in other countries. This often happens by supporting governments or companies that align with American energy interests, sometimes after wars or regime changes.
Like in Iraq.
That's a key example the material points to. After the 2003 invasion, American oil companies were, uh, let's say, well-positioned to gain access to Iraq's oil fields.
Yeah.
Now, direct colonization for oil isn't really the model anymore, but influence through military presence, economic pressure, diplomatic deals, that's still very much alive and kicking.
Okay, so bringing this massive global strategy down to a specific case, what does this all mean for a country like Pakistan? It's not a major oil producer itself, so how does it fit into this American oil imperative?
That's a really good question. Because Pakistan isn't sitting on vast reserves, its role is different. But energy cooperation has been a significant part of the U.S.-Pakistan relationship. The U.S. has, for instance, provided aid to help Pakistan's energy sector, which has struggled. Funding for things like power plants, transmission lines.
So it's more about stability and influence in that case, not direct resource grabbing.
Precisely. It's about maintaining a relationship, ensuring some level of stability in a strategically important region, and yes, exerting influence through that cooperation.
But reading between the lines of our sources, it sounds like it's not always smooth sailing or simple aid. There's friction too, right? Some
No.
interesting diplomatic maneuvers.
Oh, absolutely. It gets complicated. The material highlights U.S. opposition to Pakistan's efforts to build energy ties with Iran. Specifically, the Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline project.
Washington wasn't happy about that.
Not at all. They actively discouraged it. But interestingly, the U.S. did support alternative projects. like the TPI pipeline. That's Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India.
And why TPI?
Well, TPI aligns much better with U.S. geopolitical goals. It bypasses Iran, involves countries the U.S. has different strategic interests with. It's a clear example of steering energy partnerships to fit broader American strategy.
Okay, so beyond infrastructure aid and pipeline politics, was there ever any, like, direct oil trade, deals involving U.S. companies supplying oil or expertise?
Yes, there have been instances. Occasional deals between Pakistani entities and U.S. firms, sometimes importing refined petroleum products. Other times it involved technical help, like U.S. companies assisting with oil exploration or refining technology in Pakistan. For example, companies like ExxonMobil have looked into joint ventures for offshore drilling in Pakistan's waters.
Interesting.
And maybe around the late 2010s, the U.S. also started talking more about Pakistan diversifying its energy sources, which, perhaps not coincidentally, could include importing American liquefied natural gas (LNG) or refined oil products.
Right, opening up a market, potentially.
Potentially, yes.
So if we try to connect all these threads, Pakistan, the pipelines, the aid, the potential trade, what's the sort of overarching U.S. strategy that emerges from our sources, especially looking at more recent discussions?
Well, the U.S. and Pakistan have continued to talk about energy cooperation within their broader strategic dialogues. That includes things like investment in renewables, modernizing Pakistan's refineries. But here's the key thing. These initiatives are often, limited. They don't happen in a vacuum. They're heavily shaped by bigger geopolitical concerns.
Like China's influence or
Yeah.
Iran's?
Exactly. U.S. concerns about growing Chinese and Iranian influence in the region definitely play a role in how these energy deals are structured, or even if they happen at all. So the bigger picture strategy that our sources paint is pretty consistent. The U.S. works to limit the energy influence of rivals, think Iran, Russia, globally. And at the same time, it supports partnerships, both corporate and strategic, that benefit American companies and align with U.S. foreign policy goals. So when you put it all together, the military muscle, the economic weight, the strategic alliances, the U.S. has been very effective at positioning itself to influence, if not outright control, key oil resources and trade routes. And partnerships like the one with Pakistan, even if complex, are leveraged to serve those broader strategic aims. It really does raise the question of how these deep-seated energy strategies continue to shape alliances all over the world today.
Wow, yeah, this deep dive really pulls back the curtain, doesn't it? It shows how oil is so much more than just a commodity. It's deeply woven into U.S. foreign policy, global power. It's about control, influence, strategic chess moves on a global scale.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And it provides a powerful lens.
Yeah.
So when you see headlines about energy security or tensions in certain regions or new international partnerships forming, understanding this underlying oil imperatives, as we've called it, helps you see the potential motivations, the long game being played. And it really makes you wonder, with this big global push towards renewable energy, how are these long-standing oil-based strategies going to change? Will they adapt? Or maybe even intensify in some ways as the energy landscape shifts?
That's a really fascinating thought to leave things on, a lot to keep watching. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it gave you some useful insights, and we definitely encourage you to keep digging and connecting these dots yourself.